Hello, and welcome to our session on achieving business agility through modern application development. We're excited you're here. I'm Dave Morris, the Director of Marketing for Clean Slate Technology Group. Our chat today will be focused on leveraging the cloud in your application development efforts. So specifically, we're going to take a look at a few things. The new normal state in the world today. We're going to take a look at 3 key questions that all technology leaders must be able to answer. And finally, we'll dive into how the cloud can enable agility, how to build and deliver faster than ever before. Our speaker today is Chris Seitz. He's our VP of Product and Delivery. Just a quick note about Clean Slate. We're an Indianapolis-based consultancy who are solely focused on both building new cloud-native applications and modernizing legacy applications. We think we have a pretty unique approach to development, which is what we call full service modernization. It's a combination of application development, DevOps, and cloud architecture. 3 quick things to mention before we get started. The first is please engage with us through the GoToWebinar question box. We're happy to get those questions and we'll answer them at the end. Regarding the Uber Eats voucher, please know that you must claim that voucher today. It's good from now until the end of the day. It was a link that was included in the reminder that you got about an hour ago. So if you haven't seen that, check your inbox and it should be there. And then for those interested in the Ping Putter giveaway, to be eligible, you must stay until the end of the session. We'll notify the winner by email, so good luck. Thanks again for being here. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chris.
Okay, thank you everyone, and I appreciate Dave, the introduction there, and want to welcome everyone as well today. Glad you could join us. We've got plenty of material to cover, so hold on, and we're going to take off right now. Of course, hang on, there we go. Of course, we're here today to talk about modernization and how it can impact your applications. But before we dive too much into that on the cloud side, I want to talk about the state of the market and, frankly, some of the global influences that are going on right now. And because it'll set the stage and the landscape for why modernization is so important. And we're going to start our time today talking about unprecedented change. And I think everyone would agree. I don't think anyone would challenge and say that this isn't something that's going on in our world. But clearly, we have unprecedented change going on right now in the marketplace and in our businesses that are challenging our ability to deliver and meet the needs of customers. So, you know, as we take a look again at the landscape, digital offerings are in place for everything. So if you think how you conduct business as a consumer today, whether it be banking, there's digital offerings to do all your banking online now. In fact, some banks don't offer physical locations anymore. You can do your grocery shopping online. You can shop for homes and other real estate purchases. You can gamble and do all the betting you want to do online. And even doctor's visits, what would have been unthinkable a year ago in terms of going to the doctor. Doctor visits are now conducted through Zoom and Zoom sessions. Again, something that no one would ever have thought would be something we would be doing even just a year ago. So the digital offerings and experience is now available for everything. The global marketplace is now available to everyone. And you might have heard the phrase where folks have said, "I'm not concerned about the competitors that I know about. I'm concerned about the proverbial 2 guys in a garage who came up with some idea and now they're offering it, you know, on a global spectrum, and they're eating away. Their innovation is eating away at my customer base." Again, anyone can easily enter the marketplace and penetrate where maybe they couldn't have in the past. And the workforce is changing as well. Obviously, we have a global workforce, but there's been a rise in the independent workforce. Some of our next generation workforce coming to play, they have a different mindset, and in many cases want to work independently. They want to be different in how they approach work. They want work-life balance. And so we see an influx in the independent workforce in terms of contractors, freelancers, consultants, temp workers, and even folks who prefer to stay self-employed. And again, these are all creating pressures on businesses in terms of having to understand how to deal with these. And then, of course, there's the ever increasing acceleration in terms of the changes to technology. Again, I would assume this is something, everyone on the call today is more than aware of. You probably remember a time when they talked about the big three. You hear a lot about the big three. The big three changes: cloud, big data, and mobile. But not too much longer after that, social came to play, and then now AI, machine learning, IoT, and many others. And so, you don't hear the big four or the big six or seven because it's just coming too fast. And all of these accelerations and all of these changes, again, on the business front, again, are creating just unprecedented both opportunities, but challenges as well that businesses are being forced to deal with. And then, of course, I give just an easy example. Again, you could probably put your industry up here as well, I'm sure. But if we just take an easy example on the social side, some of you might actually remember this thing called MySpace. Back in the early 2000s, it's a bit of a foregone conclusion because Facebook came in and really just dominated. But about every couple of years or so, we see more and more new products, new ideas, new ways of social interaction that are threatening this marketplace if you're an incumbent. So whether it be Twitter or Instagram or Twitch or TikTok, they're changing the landscape, creating new pressures. And where years ago it would have taken a long time maybe for things to change, again, every 2 or 3 years things are coming out. If your kids are like mine, my kids, they want nothing to do with Facebook anymore. That's something that grandma and grandpa use, not something their generation uses. For them, it's TikTok, it's Instagram. We would never go to Facebook. So again, this is just an example of how the market is changing and all the pressures that are on businesses. Now let's shift gears here for a second and talk about another area that's creating again challenges for businesses. So we're shifting now from change to uncertainty. And so if you look at the social and political world and some of the dynamics there, again, many of these things I would assume and anticipate are affecting your businesses, whether it be on the political side with lockdowns and recessions, or poverty, immigration, climate change, legal, privacy, regulations, GDPR, all shifting, changing rapidly, creating uncertainty, difficulty to predict what's coming in the environment, and again, pressures on business. And I didn't even mention, but it's the obvious one, global pandemic with COVID. Again, unforeseen challenges coming towards everyone's business. So we have a new normal. You've probably heard folks say, maybe you've said it yourself, man, I just can't wait till things go back to normal. But unfortunately, the reality is what we have today is here to stay and is probably going to change again very, very soon. Disruption is now the rule. And what's very important for companies is that they're ready for that next event. What's the next COVID? What's the next disruption? What's the next regulation? How are we going to be ready for those things? And a key word with the new normal that you'll hear me use throughout the presentation today is resiliency. Is your company, is your organization, is your IT staff positioned to be resilient, to handle the changes, to handle those unforeseen things that are going to come? That's a different demand than maybe what we even saw 2 years ago. The market is changing that fast. So again, with the uncertainty and the rate and pace of change, that introduces to us some key questions that all technology leaders, folks here on the phone, but folks in the market as well, need to consider. And we'll walk through those right now. So the first one that we would present today and ask folks to consider is have you taken steps to future-proof your organization and your operation? So again, back to that resiliency word around your crucial operations. So maybe not resiliency in every part of your operation, but in those key pieces. And again, that's focused not just on IT, but on the business. Can you offer new services? Can you pivot? Can you take another COVID hit? And then taking a look at your technical debt, those in technology investments that you've already made that might prohibit you and prevent you from being future-proofed. The second question that we have today is around flexibility, and I mentioned this already, but are you in a position where as the market changes, and it will change, and when it changes quickly, is the business and are your critical systems in a position to flex and pivot? So this relates back to modern architectures and the ability to respond quickly to the market, and then being able to introduce those things very, very quickly. Again, major challenge for many businesses. And then finally, what about new digital services? We talked earlier in the presentation about all things going digital. A digital way, frankly, to do just about everything that's on the market today. They're emerging, they're coming quickly, and the question here is, where is your business and your technology team prepared and positioned to offer new products into the market and to innovate and try and fail fast? So again, with all that in mind, where we're at today is the rules have changed. We talked about disruption is really the name of the game and being ready to handle that. So the three key ideas here to focus on for the future, and especially for right now, is resiliency and adaptability and innovation. And for the companies that are deeply invested and have settled in on their strategy around these areas are more than likely the ones that are going to not just survive, but thrive. And then just an emphasis again on how businesses are relying on technology leaders now more than ever to put companies in a position where they can be resilient and adapt. Now, just to take a little deeper dive around this idea, a really interesting study that was conducted by Infotech, and we've highlighted a couple of things here today. Really talked about preparedness in the market from an IT perspective. So there's a survey that was done to ask technology leaders a couple of questions, and again, this is a sample of the survey. But on the left, you can see the question was all around companies and their level of IT maturity. And you can see on the left the scale that the survey asked. Now, we've highlighted there in green at the top. And as you can see, there's only about 20% of those surveyed that felt strongly that they were in a very mature position to help the business expand and transform. Now, contrast that with on the right side, and the question there has to do with, with the COVID pandemic and the changes that that introduced, how likely is that going to change your operation, and how deeply are those changes going to come? And again, highlighting those kind of top two categories, but obviously the anticipation from almost 60% of the group is heavy change. Lots of change and changes that are going to be around forever. So again, to kind of contrast the two, we've got a portion, only about 20% that are saying, hey, we're ready. We think we're mature enough to handle transformational types of changes. Only 20%, but then we have majority that are saying, I expect a lot of change to come. So that gap, it could be a great opportunity for some companies, but it could also pose kind of some challenges. And again, the IT leader's role is more crucial than ever around that. So a couple of case studies, a couple examples of maybe some companies that were prepared and maybe some companies that weren't. Got a little chart here that talks about Disney Plus. Now, I chose this. My wife's a big fan of Disney, and so this is something certainly of interest to her. So you can see back in about a year ago, early in 2020, is when Disney introduced their Disney Plus streaming service into the market. And you can see the numbers here, at least they reported about 26 million subscribers. And then here, just in a very short time, we're a year later down the road, and they're reporting out almost 95 million. Now, you guys can probably do the math better than I can. I think the Disney Plus subscription runs about $5 to $6 per month, times about 12 months in a year, times 95 million. The numbers add up really quick. Who wouldn't want that new revenue stream? So now I assume Disney was working on this well before COVID hit. So on one hand, in my mind, I go, man, they are so lucky. They just hit the timing perfectly. But on the other hand, clearly they saw the opportunity, they saw the need, to go up against some of their competition in the entertainment and content space. So were they really prepared, or they just got lucky? I guess I'll leave that for you to decide today. Now on the other side of that, got a list here of some brand names that I'm sure you'll recognize. Many of these have been around for a long time, decades, if not 100 years down the road. And these are all, again, a subset of companies that filed for bankruptcy in 2020. Now, we don't know exactly the reasoning behind every one of these and why they ended up filing for bankruptcy, but many, if not all of these, are in the retail space. Obviously, there's been a lot of competitive pressure because of Amazon and other retail online channels, and clearly some challenges there. But more than likely, with those pressures and a difficulty to pivot and respond to the market, and then you bring COVID to play, again, that unseen event, and obviously a challenge for them to pivot and adjust and respond. So again, a couple of case studies there, just presenting, how other companies are dealing with things in the marketplace. Now, I want you to think for a moment here about your competition, because again, I'm sure that folks are thinking about, how am I going to respond to some of these challenges, and I need to keep up with the competition. Well, again, these are some pretty, perhaps some outlier examples, but these are some examples of companies that are going all in. So you can see investments that are being publicized in terms of billions of dollars, multi-year programs to advance and modernize. So again, the competition is already in the game. You likely won't be enough to just match their efforts to stay competitive. It's going to require outpacing the competition. So again, we talked about the three questions. We talked about what's going on in the marketplace. The overall question is around, are you vulnerable? Do you have resiliency? Again, here a study from Gartner suggesting that, board of directors in a survey that they conducted are wanting to accelerate digital initiatives, in particular in response to COVID-19. But clearly, IT leaders are in a position where we must rise to the occasion. So, with all that perhaps gloom and doom a little bit, what's the journey forward, and how should companies respond, and what does a clean slate bring to the table for companies like the folks that are joining and our other clients? So for us, the answer is pretty clear. Modernization is the response to the market challenges that we talked about, to the political and social challenges and regulatory, because again, it's all about resiliency. How do we put our companies and our technology in a position that we can be resilient? And modernization is the answer to that from a clean slate perspective. And cloud is the key enabler. Of course, you can modernize perhaps without cloud, but to us, cloud is the key way to address that. Now, I'm sure folks on the phone, cloud's nothing new. I would think that folks have made some sort of endeavor into the cloud space, maybe a lot, maybe a little, but certainly I think folks are aware of the promises of cloud. And from a perhaps more business perspective, just really the ability to deliver faster and be able to do it in such a way that you can innovate and match better to what your customer needs are. And then from a technology perspective, it's all about being able to provide services and then scale them properly. And so you think about all of the high availability, reliability, the ability to move quickly with provisioning. But a big one here I want to talk about and just mention is these services that have now been offered to the masses. So for some companies, only companies that had very deep pockets were able to endeavor into AI, machine learning, and so forth. And now cloud has brought that to the masses. So even the smaller startup can engage in those. So how does modernization work? For Clean Slate, we have what we call our triple threat, our three pillars of approach to modernization, again, to position companies for that resiliency. So cloud development, so that's all around app dev, DevOps, and of course, cloud architecture. And when we say cloud architecture, think of laying out all of the infrastructure components and services that are required to enable your applications. So when we work with clients, obviously you can do any one of the three of these. So for example, if you had an existing application, you could certainly lift and shift it into the cloud and achieve some level of modernization. And in some cases, that's a very good strategy. But obviously bringing the three of these together and being able to provide them on all three fronts is obviously where the greatest bang for the buck is. So I'm going to drill down into these just a little bit, provided just some information. I'm actually going to start from the bottom and work my way up. So let's start talking about cloud architecture. And on each one of these slides, we kind of give a profile here around the traditional approach and the characteristics that you typically see from a traditional legacy approach. Then some of the cloud characteristics, some of the things that are different about the cloud, and then finally the cloud advantages. So by leveraging the cloud characteristics, what do you hope to gain? Again, on the architecture side, frankly, there's quite a bit here. But let me again just to highlight a couple of areas where the cloud is just very different is always around how you're provisioning resources. So on the traditional side, again, you're buying capacity, and you're actually buying, in most cases, capacity for a rainy day. So this is how much I need. I think for this new application, so we buy servers and storage and so forth, but better double that up just in case we grow. Cloud, of course, is very different. We basically provision based on what we need, and then we can scale up and scale down based on those needs. Everything in the cloud is command line based and API based. And what I mean by that, no matter which hyperscale vendor you'd like to choose, they've exposed all of their services and capabilities through API and command line interfaces. That means the cloud environments are absolutely designed with automation in mind. Again, major advantage. Plenty of out-of-the-box services. It's impossible to keep up with AWS, Azure, Google, again, all the providers. They are coming out with new services weekly, and so you have all these things at your disposal. The last point I want to make here, I actually kind of pointed out on the bottom right on cloud advantages, is what I call close enough planning. Again, coming from this space in the past, hey, we're going to ramp up some new services. We got to spec out servers, storage, rack space, et cetera, and I got to lay all that out. Then I got to get a purchase rec and make sure you plan that all right. And hopefully we got to get really, really close because we don't want to undersize or oversize equipment. And so, a real demand for being what I always call the perfect plan because we don't want to waste dollars. The exciting thing to me about cloud, and especially in the infrastructure space, is again what I call close enough. We have to be directionally correct, but again, if we built out infrastructure that's either too large or too small, I can simply dial up, dial down, no harm, no foul. So let me move on now to the development side of the house. Again, in this space, I want you to think about products that and software that companies are offering to their clients. So obviously, because the cloud space applications are less coupled to specific pieces of hardware, and there's scalability in the hardware, it's much easier to spin up, spin down services, try things, throw away bad ideas, spin up new ideas. Again, the cloud is built with this in mind, and frankly, there's just fewer infrastructure constraints. Not that you can't achieve some of that in a traditional setting, but just definitely some fewer constraints there. Again, more out-of-the-box services, databases, message queues, etc. If I was building my app and I said, you know what, it would just dawn on us now, we need message queue services. I don't have to go buy that, build that, install that. It's there, ready to go. And then a very important point here, if mistakes are made, it's not a killer. Throw away what we did wrong, refactor, move ahead. Again, those are some major advantages, and all looking to be customer-centric, innovative-centric, being able to respond quickly, pivot, all for products that are being offered to customers. And then finally, in the DevOps space, certainly DevOps can be used in a traditional, and is being used, and absolutely should be used in a traditional setting. And would never want to see that go away. But again, from what we talked about before, from a cloud perspective, everything has been exposed through command line, API, but there's a whole set of tools that are provided out of the box in the cloud from the providers you choose. So whether it be tools like CloudFormation, Code Build, Code Deploy on the AWS side, or on Azure with Azure DevOps, out-of-the-box products, fully integrated, fully supported, So again, definitely kind of a leg up there on the cloud space. So again, just recapping the clean slate approach and what we bring to bear for our clients and our customers is again what we've called our triple threat with development, DevOps, and the cloud architecture. And again, bringing these three things together to drive as much value to the business in terms of resiliency. So does this stuff actually work? A lot of companies are trying it, some with success, some with maybe less success. I'll get it out. Some maybe just dabbling a little bit. But obviously, if you go out on the internet, it's inundated with success stories, case studies, multiple examples, and again, just for ease today, pulled a few that are, I'll say, some of the more dramatic case studies. Again, you can go out and read all these as well, but Edmunds.com, they shifted the ability to deliver new capabilities. They went from 6 months down to 1 week. Again, these are very extreme examples of what people are able to accomplish. Next Education, online education services. They were able to adjust their product so they can meet curriculum and academic requirements for anybody who wants to come and use their services. So again, flexibility, the ability to pivot, to take on any type of curriculum or delivery that's required. Company here called Binder on the DevOps side. They're driving their deployments from, hey, we can only get stuff out once a month, and now we're delivering things 170 times per month in terms of deployments. Who wouldn't want that kind of increase? Capital One, very popular showcase company for AWS, and they're touting their automation time reduced by 99%. Again, pretty dramatic results. Your mileage might vary. And then, of course, on the infrastructure side, again here, lots of case studies around Capital One, but using them for example. Rapid innovation, ability. We talked about those democratized services, big data, machine learning, and a focus, and cloud enabling them to focus on customer-centric products and applications, and less on support and some of the other challenges. So that's what the industry is telling us. Those are the case studies, again, that you can go out and look at, whether it be AWS, Azure, Google, and some of the other players. But from a clean slate perspective, we're seeing the same sorts of results with our clients as well. So we're very proud of the results that we've been able to achieve with our clients to help them meet the business demands and achieve in many ways that resiliency and customer-centric delivery. So again, won't read through all of these, but whether we're talking about bringing new apps quickly to market, faster release of features, on-demand build and deploy, self-service for developers, reduction in provisioning times and infrastructure footprint. Again, really proud of some of the success that we've been able to drive. Now, the one thing I will call out across the top here, we're pretty proud of this. Cloud does not come without some pitfalls. Obviously, there's a different delivery style, different tools, different services, different approaches, different patterns that the cloud offers, and takes knowledge and skill and expertise in those areas that not all companies have. And so coming alongside our clients and being able to help guide them around those pitfalls and make sure some of those crucial mistakes aren't being made is something that we pride ourselves in. And so very happy we can help this client across the top drive some efficiency in their utilization and costs around their cloud environment. So it's not just about delivering, it's about making the most of that investment. So call to action today. As we wrap up here, last couple of slides, we talked early on about the pressures in the market. Again, whether it was the accelerated change of technology, whether it was changes in the global economy, competitive pressures, all of those are putting extreme pressure on businesses to respond, to be resilient, to be able to take that next hit. And so the time is now for IT leaders to seize the opportunity and to modernize. Modernize to put yourself in a position to respond and be resilient. So our plan, our call to action here today over the next 90 days starts with an evaluation. So again, we talked about some of those key questions. Are you ready? Are you prepared? Can you introduce new digital products? So the challenge here is to ask some of those key questions and reevaluate your strategic plan. And of course, with that reevaluation comes a shift to place a higher favor and a higher priority on those modernization efforts, and especially the ones that will create resiliency and new digital opportunities. And then beyond that, in the next 30 days, is to take that plan and that vision and that roadmap and engage stakeholders and look for opportunities, frankly, to reallocate funding towards those areas that are going to provide this immediate bang for the buck around modernization. There's lots of priorities in the business, but the modernization ones should be first and foremost, given today's economic climate. Of course, we recommend that you choose a partner to help you build that roadmap, to help you chart that journey. Turns out Clean Slate is my highest recommendation of the company that you would use to engage with you to do that. But highly recommend that you choose a partner that will join with you, that has the experience and the passion to help chart that journey, avoid the pitfalls. And then across the next 60 and 90 days, work with your partner to create that action plan, to deliver the modernization, identify those opportunities, but also look on how you're going to, don't overlook the opportunities to drive cultural change and align with those stakeholders and the culture and technology mindset around modernization. And then finally, act on that action plan, prototype, build, grow, optimize, and of course, get modern. So finally, I'll leave you guys today with our thoughts. Seize the opportunity to modernize. Don't wait. Your competition is not waiting. The leaders that capitalize on this are going to be well positioned and really help their businesses succeed in the days and years to come. And then hopefully, as you succeed, you'll be able to achieve, as the caption says here on the right, not just successful business, but help lower your boss's blood pressure as well. So that's my last slide for today. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. It's been my pleasure to present. And with that, I'll turn things over, Dave, to you.
Yep, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. We've got a couple questions that have come in here. One is, can modernizing in the cloud also save an organization money, and if so, how?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And the answer is depends. So you primarily see two cases for moving to the cloud. One of them is actually cost reduction, and the other is business agility. So all the modernization that we just talked about. On the cost reduction side, the two strongest cases of whether you will see cost reduction usually comes in one of two flavors. One is if you're terribly over provisioned, so you have lots of servers and storage and physical assets, and you're making, I'll say, 10% utilization of those. there can be some tremendous value there on that from an over provisioning perspective. Now, of course, there's some things that come into play in terms of how depreciated your assets are and so forth. But that's number one. The other is from a licensing perspective. There's a couple of cases where, and not to pick on any particular vendor, but we'll say databases where you're paying some pretty salty fees around databases, and the cloud options are much more affordable if they meet your business needs, and in most cases they do. So there's some real advantages on controlling software costs and licensing, but those would be the two cases that immediately come to mind.
Good. And then we've got another one here, revolves around security. So what about security in the cloud? In on-prem or in a data center, IT can control security, right?
Yep. So great question. So security comes up all the time. It's a concern no matter what environment that you're operating out of. If you recall back in our model that I shared previously, where we have the 3 pillars, each one of those pillars has a security component. So whether you're cloud architecture, where you're talking about identity and access management and all the compliance rules around encryption and firewalls and so forth. Obviously, the cloud provides all those services. And if you're looking for compliance within industry standards, whether it be NIST or CIS and so forth, obviously all the cloud providers are very in tune with meeting and matching the compliance regulations in those space. So pretty comparable there. And then obviously on both DevOps and on app dev, there's security that needs to be kept in mind in terms of how you're writing and delivering your apps. Cloud can provide all those as well. So obviously that's embedded, and the cloud's very much there across the table. So I don't know that I would be one to say one is necessarily better than the other. It really kind of depends upon your business. Some companies have some pretty unique compliance and security needs, but I'll say in every case with the clients we've worked with so far, the cloud security model has been more than adequate to meet their needs.
Here's a tricky one that put you in the corner, put you on the spot. Is one cloud platform better than the other for modernization?
That's a great question. And we get asked that probably by every single client. And I would say that the answer isn't which one is better. The answer is which one best fits your organization. So obviously some providers are a little strong. For example, GCP, Google, is known for kind of leading the way on the analytics side. And if that's what your company is all about, then they might be a better strategic fit. On the other hand, there might be some characteristics of your company that make either AWS or Azure a better partnership. So I think the partnership, which one you will have the best partnership with, is really what makes them better. In terms of technology, there's always one that's lagging a little bit behind the other, but they tend to then leapfrog and kind of catch up. So again, I think the strategic alignment from a partnership perspective is what makes one better versus the other.
Good. All right. That was all the questions we have. So thank you again for joining today's session. We really appreciate it. And as Chris mentioned, please seize the opportunity to modernize. Consider your 30, 60, 90-day plan, and of course, I'm biased too. Engage with us for help. A link to this recording will be sent out tomorrow, and as I mentioned, we'll be drawing one lucky name this afternoon and notifying you by email for the Ping Putter. So good luck on that, and have a great day. Thank you again.